Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Rhythm and Wit, the podcast and video series that aims to explore and discuss the creative and artistic expressions of artists and performers in Oklahoma City and its neighboring cities, also known as the wider urban expanse. My name is David Steele. I am a bass player, a music producer, a graphic designer, a photographer, and a film hobbyist. My co-host is Nicholas Campbell. Nick is a stand-up comedian, a singer, songwriter, guitar player, a husband, a father, and my best friend since we were in the 6th grade. In today's episode, we discuss writing. We talk about our writing processes, using tools such as mind maps and exercising using the morning pages. We also discuss writing from different perspectives, writing fiction, screenplays, journalism, writing in groups, and marketing copy. We also discuss the dangers and potential uses of using AI or artificial intelligence to assist in writing. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel and podcast feeds to keep up with new episodes that drop every Friday. We hope you enjoy today's episode, as we greatly appreciate your time and attention. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Rhythm and Wit with me, David Steele, and
me, Nick Campbell.
Today, we want to talk to you about writing. So, let's see. I'm not really a writer. I mostly leave that to the songwriters and comedians that I work with, but I have done some writing. But I guess you do a lot of writing. So, what kind of process do you use when it comes to jokes and songs or any other types of writing?
Yeah. What I like to do is if I'm writing for a specific topic, or if I just want to try a topic out, I'll free write. I'll mind map it first, so I'll kind of like put the thing in the middle and then write a bunch of stuff and ask myself a bunch of questions. So like for this one, I did a little free writing for writing.
Oh, for today's episode.
Little meta. But and then I put writing in the middle, and then I ask myself, well, who's my favorite writers? What do I do when I write? What's my favorite part about writing? Who's my and I love the process. I love a process. I love a system. And so what I like to do is I'll do my mind map, and then I'll use that as kind of like a guide to my free writing. And then if I get stuck somewhere along the way while I'm free writing, I'll refer to the mind map. Yeah. So it'll give me a place to go.
It's kind of like a map, like a road map in a way, or kind of more like maybe like a palette of paints that you can draw.
Oh, I like that. Yeah. I'm a visual person. So like if I can see it, it helps me too, where I'm going. Also, a mind map, I feel like, and I used to do this instead, but it's just an outline. Yeah. But it just is like visual, which kind of helps, and it's fun. And then you can also make other connections from your mind map, because the other things will make connections to the other bubbles. And so that's a great way, like if you're writing jokes, to find your way in and out of different bits.
Right, yeah, that's a good idea. So how would you start, like if nobody's ever heard of a mind map, or like me?
A mind map is some stuff you have to do when you're in school that you don't ever think you're going to ever use again. Yeah, and it's just a bubble. Like, say you pick a topic, like music as an example, throw that right in the middle, and then you go, what's my favorite music? And you draw a little line, and then you go, 2000s indie rock. Boom.
The best music.
The best ever,
also.
really.
No.
Yeah, it hasn't nothing's been made better since. So. But then that could branch off. Well, why do I like this? So you do another little bubble. Because I'm very, I was an emo kid, and I found a better place to go, which was indie music. No, but I, you know what I'm saying? And then maybe you list the bands, or maybe you list, you know, different things.
So it's kind of like a web, and it stretches out kind of from idea to idea, and just I like that. Oh, yeah, because that's not exactly what I had imagined. I mean, it is, but I mean, that's good to hear it explained.
Well, it's really cool is they have like, what do you call it? Like programs that you can download, and I'll save that in my book, like in my notebook, and then I'll refer back to it whenever I want to make more jokes about it or something.
Yeah,
you know,
you could kind of,
because you can take one of the bubbles and make that your new center, and then branch off of that, and that also helps you. Like I said, you'll find different connections to other bits that way, which is kind of fun.
Yeah, that sounds like it's really good for writing jokes and bits for sure. So, I mean, it could be applied to songwriting, I imagine, or different things like that. So, yeah. So, is that your basic? That's how you start out with writing jokes. So
that's how I find premises.
Right.
And then once I get a good premise, I'll free write on the premise. I might mind map that, and if anything pops out there, like a joke or something naturally, and then sometimes I feel like those come naturally. They kind of have more of my sense of humor, and then what I'll do is I'll try to write 3 punchlines to every premise, you know, and find the best one. This isn't a perfect world.
Yeah, because nobody has the perfect approach either. I mean, everybody, you're gonna try different things, so it's always good to have different options, even when it comes to writing anything. So let's see. What about for songwriting? Is there any kind of approaches that you do with that? Is it similar, or is it a different? I mean, obviously you could use the mind map in the same way, but how does it differ from writing jokes?
Well, I started doing this, like doing the mind map and free writing. Free writing has been a huge part of it. I journal every day too. I've done that for 2 or 3 years, and it just kind of helps me figure myself out, which is nice. So I'll get premises from that.
Right.
But through all this writing, I'll also get song ideas, and then I'll just write those down on the side. That's like a separate thing,
to it later.
And I'll come to it later. And then I've been kind of writing songs again here recently, just because I was like, man, I've got all this.
Yeah, you've got some new ideas for it, so yeah.
Might as well give it a shot. And it comes a lot easier now. Before, whenever I wrote, when I was younger, I wasn't this methodical about my writing. You know, I would just like write and then think, okay, well, this kind of sounds fun. And then maybe I would come up with something, and it was kind of almost like if it came to me. But this way, I'm going to it.
Yeah. That's good.
So it makes it a lot easier to get stuff out too, and like I said, with the journaling, it really helps me understand myself and my perspective.
That's kind of what I was gonna say, was the journaling and kind of getting to know yourself, and you kind of you see yourself in a more clear light, and you can write more about that experience because you understand it more. Because that's something that I started doing a little while ago. We've talked about before, the morning pages. I'm a big fan. I know you are probably a bigger fan than I am because after I've introduced you to that. But I think that the morning pages is very good for therapy reasons, like we said, just exploring your own mind. It's an exercise in being creative even when you're not feeling like you're creative. Like you, a lot of times for us creatives, whatever your art is, there's plenty of days where it's like, I'm just not feeling creative. I'm not feeling like inspired, or but the morning pages, when you get up every day, write 3 pages of free writing, whatever it is, it doesn't matter what it is. But if you make yourself do that every day, you kind of force yourself into this creative mindset in a way where it's like, if you do it every day, no matter what your mood is, you get used to being creative no matter what mood you're in. And you can be creative anytime you want if you kind of use that as a tool to exercise that So that's why I think it's very useful in not only writing, because it's hugely useful for writing, because the more you write, the better you get at writing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a simple fact about it. So it's very useful for that, but it's also useful for many things. But it can also be useful for, I like it because it makes your brain be creative, even if whatever you're doing, you're kind of clearing that bandwidth, like you've said before, and kind of getting the cobwebs out. I used to think of it like that, clearing away the cobwebs so you can clearly focus on whatever you want to do creatively.
Yeah. Well, and what I've heard about it, and the way I try to do it is, I set a timer, like I might do 10, 20 minutes, and so I don't really do the 3 pages as much as I just do like a time frame.
It's the same idea, but because with the morning pages, for me, I like doing the 3 pages because it's just, I don't know, and I kind of structure it to where I used to do it, this structure where it'd be like, the first page would be kind of the past, thinking about maybe yesterday or something. The next page would be what I'm planning on doing today or what I'm feeling right now. And then the third page would be what I'm excited about going forward. Whoa. Which is interesting. I did that for a long time like that. I don't think that's, I mean, it's an approach. It doesn't really matter, like I said. But I stopped doing that because I'm trying not to think so much in those terms of past, present, and future. Yeah. So, I mean, that's just, but I don't know. I like the 3 pages because you can structure it a little bit to where you kind of start on one thought and complete the thought by the end of the page and do the same thing. But it roughly takes me half an hour or less, usually 20 to 30 minutes to get through 3 pages.
Yeah, I'm about the same because I'll do 10 or 20 minutes and then I'll do about 20 minutes of joke writing.
Right.
So I'll do the free. That helps get all the crap out, like you said, and then also what it does is something I think is very important about it is you don't edit yourself when you're writing. Yeah. So if you if you misspell something or your punctuation's weird or maybe you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to write that down, or man, just get past all that. It's like, write as much as you can.
If you feel uncomfortable about writing something, then probably means you need to write about it.
That's an old Steven Pressfeld thing too, is if you ever feel any resistance towards something, that means you need to go towards it. Yeah. Steven Pressfeld makes the Art of War.
Oh yeah.
Or no, the War of Art.
Yeah,
that one.
Because the other book gets too thick. I don't know.
That's Sun Tzu, completely different thing.
I've heard about that. I need to look into it.
It's great because it tells you, it kind of has that idea too of it where it's like, hey man, you want to be a professional, you got to show up to work every day. And if you want this to be a professional in this craft, you got to show up for it. You'll show up to work for someone else. You'll show up every day. Yeah. And you'll do your best. Or I mean, maybe, but
you show up.
You show up, and you'll be there, and you'll do enough to make that check.
Hard,
you'll make some money.
But that's like you're really working for yourself.
Yeah. But I don't know why. Personally, I'll put myself off. Like, I got to do all this other stuff. But I try to make that a priority. So I'll get up in the morning, make that my first thing. I'll write. I'll try not to edit myself at all. I want to go into those difficult things because I feel like I'll write stuff that almost is like evil. It's not me, but it's like filtering through here. But I need to know what that feels like in order to properly express it,
or to have an opinion on it. Yeah, it's like, how do I really feel about these thoughts? Because that's something that I've realized is like the thoughts that come in your head. That's not you. Those are just thoughts. You can't control them. They just appear. So, but and you have to deal with them. They're still there.
And putting them on paper, I mean, I feel like is almost the same. I mean, obviously there's nobody telling you what to do, but it's kind of therapy. Yeah. Because you're able to look at it. You get a bird's eye view. If this thing keeps coming up every day, then you can go, oh, hey, something's going on here. Why do I keep bringing this up? And then you can kind of dive in and even write about that. And so it's kind of a way I feel that you can do therapy on yourself. Yeah. Because you get lost in the weeds whenever you're, dealing with your own emotions. But once you see like, oh, I keep hitting this problem every time, and it seems to be made worse by these situations. Yeah. I mean, I've got an anger issue. And this has kind of helped me see that. And I see it in my kids. you know, and I'll go, oh man, I'm just tired.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of it is
recognize.
I'm tired, I'm thirsty, I'm hungry. You know,
Horny.
Yeah, that's one. That one seems like it's easier to manage. But yeah, and so I'll do that. Kill the editor. That's what I tell myself. Don't edit yourself. Let everything come out. I want to feel the evil and the good. That way I know because then you also write characters like that.
Yeah.
You can see from that perspective. Just because you don't see yourself doing it. I mean, I think that's kind of something that we have a problem with is identifying. I could have been that guy. I could have been the bum on the street. I could have been Hitler under the same circumstances.
Yeah, if you grew up in.
I could have been Republican.
Yeah.
You know, not associating the two, but I could have been a Republican. But the thing is I grew up different, you know, and once you tell yourself that person is an other, that's whenever you stop making the connections with them and you can, you know, basically be mean to them and not have any guilt, you know. That's how I feel. So I try to identify with people,
right? Yeah.
And go and write even from their perspective, because I want to know. I mean, a Republican right-wing character is funny, just like a left-wing character is funny, and to have both of those people under the same house, that's the odd couple, you know. So there's humor in that as well, but you have to understand that side before you can write to it. So I feel like that's kind of how I try to approach it, and so I'll just go off the dome and just write as much as I can.
Yeah, I think it's all about experiences and expanding our experience, and like you said, trying to identify with people that are different than you. So I think that we all take that in, and then you can output it in so many different ways of the way you write or whatever art you make. I mean, you have a more expanded view of the world.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to do that, and that's, you know, something I always strive to do is these days is getting out and trying to meet new people and meet new artists and learn new experiences from them, and learn, you know, even if it's something I'm not that interested in doing myself, you can take something away.
Yeah.
So that's something I always trying to push for.
What I like to do is ask people their writing process.
Yeah.
And
because
see
you can
how
learn
they do
something
it.
new.
Well, I didn't even know like the past, present, and future way you do it.
It's
I
just
love
an
that.
idea. It's
I'm gonna
something
try that tomorrow.
Like especially on those days where you just don't even feel like writing the pages. You're like, I don't want to. It's like I don't know what to write or how to start. It was like, let me just write what happened yesterday and then do the next. It's like, and then I'll write about, you know, it's an easy way to kind of get into it.
The thing is, once you get going, it comes out. Something comes out.
So yeah, it's just a good kind of frame, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, morning pages are a huge one for me. And then journaling. So I'll journal at night or in the morning with my morning pages. And then joke writing. That just kind of comes with both of those efforts. So
yeah, it kind of expands out. So have you ever written anything, because you've obviously written songs, you've written jokes, have you ever thought about doing like short stories or novelization or anything like that?
Well, I do a fun thing with my daughter Inez, where she actually made up this character. It's called the Dragon Princess, and it's her.
Good name.
Yeah, and it's solid. But the thing is we would tell stories in her bed about the Dragon Princess. We make up stories, right? And then heavily influenced by the 2000s RPG Legend of Dragoon for PS1 or 1990s. Heavily influenced by that game.
Yeah, it was like late 90s probably.
Yeah, solid game. One of the best RPGs made for PS1. We'll get into that later. But yeah, we would make up. Then she would go and draw and color them at school or around the house, and then
she was playing this game.
we would both make up the story together. And
no, but she was playing the video game.
No. I just borrowed heavily from the story, okay. But using her characters and really just like the main antagonist, the perceived main antagonist from.
Well, no spoilers.
Legend. No, I don't want to hear it. I mean, God forbid you don't play.
They're gonna remaster it eventually, and I'll get back on it.
It's a cash grab. What we would do is we would kind of talk through it, and then we started. And so we wrote small stories for this thing, and I've got. And then whenever Iris was born, she started doing it with us. And then so that was kind of a fun little thing. We do that before we go to bed.
Right.
So yeah, that's kind of, so we wrote that. And
so you actually wrote stuff out for it. It wasn't just like
I started taking bullet points in there.
Yeah, so you have like
yeah.
But that's the interesting thing. I think that, I mean, a lot of people do this, and I think it's very, I mean, if you want to get into writing, I would imagine, like, write a children's book, especially if you have children. I mean, I'd be interested in working on something like that, not on the writing, but it's like I could help with the art and stuff like that. It'd be fun to mess with. I don't know. Could be an idea for us.
Yeah. And I got another one that I mess with. I got a couple of stories. I like anything that deals with time.
Yeah.
So I had this story where and then I've got another one. It's a kid's book. That one was a little darker.
So, yeah. So you have some ideas for a children's book and a novel series, which sounds really cool. Hopefully we'll get to do something with that one day. But something about writing I've thought a lot about is, because I've always been interested in writing. I like to write certain things. I mean, I've dabbled in some songwriting and kind of poetry, and kind of what I was going to say earlier, going back to the songwriting topic, was the way I do it, or I have done it, is like, I'll have an idea, I'll come up with something, a topic, a theme that I want to write about, and I'll just write sentences about it, and then kind of short lines of like whatever it is that I want to say, or ideas about it. And then, so I have that kind of as an outline. It's just sentences, just short sentences about, like, on line by line. Then I'll take each of those sentences and try to make actual musical, or kind of even shorter versions or whatever, and kind of build that out into, obviously turning it into rhymes and syllables. I use the syllables as on beats, like I'm sure you do, because it's like I look at it as through a rhythm, of course. And so what I do when it comes to the lyrics, I just write to a beat. I don't write to music.
Whoa.
Because I don't, that wouldn't work for me anyways, because I don't really know. I'm not into singing. It's fine. I'll leave it to the professionals. But I like that, and I think it's an interesting approach to songwriting, because, and it just goes into, it's just poetry at that point, because that's how you write. You write on a rhythm in poetry. So, but you could turn it into a song. I mean, you could add notes to it. So yeah, that's how I do it, and I think that it was fun. I like to do it because it's easy. Just, if you have the time, it takes time, of course. But if you have time to sit down on a computer or even whatever with a notepad, you can just write stuff and create something with nothing, basically, just your mind and words.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. So
it's very fun like that. But so I kind of got into that for a little while, and that was fun.
Well, that's pretty close to what I do for guitar. Like, I'll play a chord progression that I think is interesting, or that I'm messing with, and then I'll sing the melody. Like, I'll just come up with fake words and melodies, and all I'm doing is kind of setting where I want my syllables.
Yeah.
And where how
it's gonna fit in there.
And then I'll just kind of wedge words in there, and eventually it'll kind of just the topic or the theme or whatever will kind of just bring itself out over time.
Yeah, because that's from watching you do it for years back in the day, was like that. I knew your process for the most part. That's how you did it, and I found it interesting because I was listening to a podcast this was a few years ago, but years after that, and had never really heard of other people writing the way you did until I was listening to an episode of WTF with Mark Maron, and he had on the very talented musician John Legend, and he was talking about his approach to songwriting, and he was talking about how he does the same thing that you did, and I was like, holy shit, Nick writes like John Legend.
Dude, I listened to that same podcast,
Yeah.
and when he said that, I was like, I'm a genius.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like,
I was like, I'm doing it right.
But yeah, the way it is, it's like it, and he called it scatting. You just like, you're just making up words and just placing, like you said, the vocalization of the notes in, and then you go back and add on the context after that. And I thought that was incredible because, like I said, I think that's a perfectly good way to do it. If it's good enough for John Legend, I mean,
it's got to be pretty.
So,
good.
But you don't have to do it like that. You can do it however you do it, and it.
Well, that's the best part about all this. There's no one way. It's different for everybody. Your personality pretty much dictates how you're going to write. So something that I always try to do now, and it might be because I'm older, I'm 36. It's like I follow my senses. I follow like it's weird how to explain it, but you just kind of like go towards the things that you are like popping up at you. I like to think of it like, you know how like a football player throws when you're first starting out, you're learning how to throw the spiral, where you put your arm, and you're
because
like,
we both know a lot about football.
Yeah, this is it's the only football reference I'm gonna do. It's like, and
like I know exactly what you're talking about. Of course, I know how to throw a spiral.
Yeah. All that football was but you're throwing and then after a while you don't think about that anymore.
Right,
You've practiced it so much that it becomes reactionary, and like so you adjust that throw for whatever it needs, right? So I feel like that's kind of what your senses is. Like I know what I like. I've listened to music enough. I've listened to comedy enough to where once I'm writing, I'm going, man, I'm going to just go this direction with this. I'm going to go down this aisle.
Yeah. You can kind of have more freedom because you're not so much worried about how to do the thing anymore. It's like, what you're doing. You just need to know what you're trying, And
I think you have an internal sense of what you like, an internal sense of how you want to do things, whether you recognize that or not.
Yeah, I think that's something that's, I think so many of us fight against these things that we think are, fraud, or we don't like about ourselves. But it's like whoever you are, that's who you are. I mean, I think the sooner you can recognize that and just accept that, the more easier life gets.
Yeah,
for sure.
And for me, it's like I want to write like my favorites. I want to write like Mark Twain, Nick Hornby. I want to write like Chad Daniels. I want to write like Louis Anderson. Like music wise, Death Cab for Cutie. But I don't live that guy's life.
Right.
And so when I look at his art and I'm like, well, I want to write like Chad Daniels. Well, he got divorced.
It's like, well,
I can't write about
that. I got to write like this guy.
Sorry,
so.
I got to let it go. I'm trying to get good. But and I think it's funny. I'm very clean comic. I'm not very dirty. And even whenever I do, I tried it. It just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel
so
right.
if it's not,
try on that hat.
If it doesn't feel good, then you shouldn't.
You should try on the hat.
Yeah.
But I mean, as far as like, don't force it if it doesn't feel good. And so that's why I try to lean toward. I would have never thought that I would be a guy that talks about family, kids, wife. Like I always I wanted to be Louis C.K. or I thought I'd be more prolific, but really those things, from my perspective, can be prolific.
Yeah. You can take their approaches.
Yeah, the mechanisms that make their jokes work.
Because we all. I mean, that's why I do love comedy so much. Is that it's content of what you create is you. That's all you can do with comedy, really. I mean, you can take it and you can make. I mean, you can do like an SNL approach when it's like, you're creating characters and that's like acting more so than, but when it's just stand-up comedy and then somebody's just talking about their life, I mean, that's what you have to do. And that's why I like it, is it's just pure expression of themselves, of the person that's performing.
Yeah. Well, and if you give 3 comedians the same topic, and if they might come up with similar jokes, but they're going to filter it through their perspective. And that's what your voice is. Your voice is like, what does this mean to me? How can I show these people my perspective and have them accept it, and if not accept it, then at least know where I'm coming from, and then I can throw the joke in. You know, your straight line, your setup is really your perspective, and then the joke is your commentary on that perspective, right? So that's kind of how I feel about it. I mean, if you're playing to your voice, if you're writing towards your voice, which, you know, right now I'm a year and 3 months in, so.
But you're still in that trying to throw the spiral away.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, you're not really there yet, even though you're gonna, you know, as far as.
But if I'm writing jokes, and say I write a joke about my wife, how many other people are going to have jokes about their wife? Okay,
yeah, I mean, if you're not married, like, I can't write a joke about my wife because I don't have a wife.
yeah.
I mean,
but if I'm writing
or a family, it's like I can't. I mean, I have a family, of course, but it's like you have kids and things like that, so you have a much different experience with family.
And I'm going to show my difficulties through that, and then you're going to go through the.
But I could talk about about being single, about whatever, being a musician, things like that, on that side of it. That's why I say, like, you learn so much about the comics and people that perform. I mean, songwriting and joke writing are obviously, that's not the final form of that thing. I mean, most writing, I guess, it will take different forms depending on what it is. But, I mean, you could be a joke writer for another comic, though, and not ever have to tell the jokes, but that's what I'm kind of getting at is, like, the idea of just being a writer with just words and putting that out, just the words themselves, I think is fascinating because it just has no overhead at all.
That's the best part.
And like, cause that's something when I started getting into film, I really was interested in becoming a movie script writer, and I think that I could still do that. I mean, it's something I'm still interested in, but I was like, man, that'd be really cool, cause I mean. And ideally, if you could write scripts all day, every day, and, you know, none of them will ever get made, certainly. I mean, that's a huge thing in Hollywood. There's, like, millions of scripts out there and, like, only so many movies that actually make it. So that's so you have to write a lot if you're getting into that industry. But you sell one movie script. If you get one even sold, it doesn't even have to get made. You can make $1 million from selling a movie script to a studio that never does anything with it. And you still make that money. So I'm like,
It's like making your own lottery ticket.
This could be a cool thing to get into if you were to do it and try to get them sold. So, and it's not that hard. I mean, there is a process. I mean, movie script writing is its own thing. It's not like writing a novel. It's very, you know, you have to come at it very differently. And, you know, the things that you write are very different because it's much more description of, like, because that isn't the final product, you know, if it does make it to being made. But as a writer, that's all your job is, to write it, and you pass it off. And then the director takes the words and the things that you set up and builds out. They add their experience and their thoughts on top of that and bring that to life. Which is cool. I think filmmaking is so fun because it's such a collaborative art form like that. But I like that idea of just being the writer and just like, I'll just pump out movie scripts until one of them sells. I can do this. But it's an idea.
The idea of, you know, like you said, you'll pump them out. It's
I mean, you just have to.
It's the same thing with comedy or even songwriting. It's got to be. I feel like it's got to be something that you just love doing.
Yeah.
You know, because if you're trying to do it for the acclaim, you're gonna lose. You're gonna get dissuaded pretty quick. You're gonna, you know, feel pretty beat up after a while. If your goal is to make money, I feel like that's something that the world has put on art, where it has to make money.
Yeah. Well,
if you focus on that it has to make money, then I feel like you're not doing it for the right purpose.
I think with that, for me, and I mean, because I like something I realized over the past few years for sure is that I love telling stories, and it's like I think I've just been trying to find a way in to that, and like how to be able to, you know, do it in the way that I like doing the most. I mean, because I like lots of different ways to tell stories. Like I said before, it's like, I mean, when I was a kid, like, you know, pre-teenage years, I was always making up stories and writing them, you know.
Yeah.
And like as soon as I learned to type, and my parents had a computer, I was like typing out stuff, like little short stories and stuff like that. I used to love that stuff.
Oh.
And I think that I still have that, you know.
When did you stop?
That building. Well, I think that I just learned. I don't know. I think that I grew up and got into, you know, the world, and maybe just getting more into experience in the world. Like when I got into skateboarding and music and all of that, and that kind of fell away. And I don't know, because that's something that I've always thought about, was like, if in a different world, in a different timeline in the multiverse, like I became like a journalist. I think journalism is so interesting, and that's another way that's just, there's no overhead as far as if you were on to be a journalist. You have a computer and your fingers, you know, and but you can make a living doing it. Obviously, there are people that make living writing, and that's something that I probably wouldn't be as interested in doing now, knowing more about it, because like you said before, you have to write a ton. You have to love doing that to be able to output that amount of content, and I think that would be, I'd get burnt out on it, I think, if I had to write about like news stories every day and stuff like that. I don't know. I like making stuff up. I like world building. I like character, you know.
Yeah.
So it's the movie script thing could still be a thing I want to dive more into. One more topic I wanted to touch on was another type of writing that I do a lot, kind of coming in from journaling a little bit, but marketing copy. And it kind of goes into, I mean, because I do that mostly for music. When you're writing, when you have a band, you have to write a bio. So that's kind of where I used to do a lot back for AVR in those days, and kind of learned how to write a biography for a band, and kind of, you know, there's different things online you can look at for any kind of biography. I mean, a simple structure, right? Like keeping it simple and things like that. So that's fun to do. I think I don't have any great tips on it other than...
I've got one.
Yeah.
You use ChatGPT. That's
okay, yeah.
For any copy...
talk about this.
For any copy, like for shows or for like my own bio, or I use it to help me figure out my persona, because I kind of plugged in some information and I went like, based on this book by this person, you know, and then it went through and it gave me... It's a good jumping off point. Yeah. I feel like it's a tool.
Yeah,
it is a tool.
I was going to say, there's a lot of dangers with AI right now. I mean, I think it's just like with anything. New technologies like streaming music or streaming video changes, you know, the art, and it changes the culture and the way we do things. And so it can be very dangerous. And because, honestly, Napster did ruin the music industry. But it was going to happen anyways, because it wasn't Napster's fault. It's technology.
Yeah, it's the progression.
Technology came up and said, no, sorry, music industry, record labels, you know, this isn't going to work anymore, because the technology has surpassed, you know, the need for physical media in that way. So AI is similar. I think that there's a lot of people that use it for evil. Like, I mean, back in the streaming days, we downloaded a lot of stuff, allegedly, from Napster.
Yeah, allegedly. Some of it said something and was the wrong thing.
Got a couple of viruses.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
So we learned a lesson. And, but... yeah, and the industry has to catch up. So with AI, the similar thing. I mean, there's a lot of people that could use it for evil and stealing from other people. But I mean, the technology is here, and we're gonna have to deal with it one way or the other. And the best way to do it is to use it in that way. And like, I think, and I've heard a lot of people say that it's a great jumping off point. I mean, anything that you get out of AI, it's not going to be the finished thing.
No.
Because computers are very dumb still.
It's quick. You
But
know?
yeah, it's
I
faster.
See it like
you
this.
jump a lot of.
I see it like this. In construction, when power tools were introduced,
right?
when power tools, there
Then
was a lot of people
what was that
that
guy's
were against
name
it.
that worked on the railroad? John Henry.
John Henry. Oh, that's it. Yeah, that's a great example.
He died, unfortunately.
Yeah, but I mean, he died trying real hard. You know, but this is not that. So you know, like, but it's pretty much
no,
that.
that is
yeah.
the premise. That's the whole.
We're not dying because of it.
But I'm saying if you try to outcompete it,
Yeah.
you'll end up killing yourself.
Yeah, well,
You have to work
yeah,
with
I see
it.
what you're saying. Well, that's the thing is, why are we? I mean, it should have been like, all right, now these guys don't have to work that hard.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, that's what this is. The same thing with power tools. Like when they were introduced, people were like, man, these are going to take away people's jobs. Like, no,
Right.
we're just going to build buildings
It's
faster.
gonna be easier.
Yeah, and we're going to save our wrists and hands. You know.
Because I think a lot about that too when I'm editing and stuff, or like, and I use it even. I mean, we all use AI in ways that you don't even if you're against AI. Oh, you used AI before, you just didn't know it. Google is powered by AI now. I mean, it's all. I mean, computers themselves are. It's the same thing. It's just a much advanced version of it. But I mean, when you're using a computer to do anything, you're letting the computer do a lot of the work. I mean, but by the way it's programmed. So it's
Well, how do you feel about, say, a guy puts in, I want to write a book about dragons. The main character is this. I have this character and this character. These are their archetypes. Can you put me together a 12 chapter book in a form of a kid's deal? And it'll spit it out. And then you go through and read it and edit it. Is that considered you writing?
But I think if you're adding something if you're changing it, you're putting yourself into that thing. You know, it's like you're changing the things that you want. You're making the choices at that point. If it spits it out and you hit publish, that's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be garbage for one. But I mean, because you could do that. I mean, you could probably. You know, I'm sure there's people out there doing it right now that are doing exactly what you said, having a 12 chapter book, but if they go back through and they spend another 12 hours or what, I don't know how long it takes to write this shit. If they spend hours and hours and hours putting more, changing it and shaping it, then it's like, it's not at all what the AI made, but it's the structure. Because if you think about it like this, if you're sculpting something right out of clay, you didn't make the clay.
Yeah, you didn't make the clay. Yeah,
you say if it's like you're carving a tree, wooden thing, you have to pick that branch, or whatever, that log that you're gonna carve, and so you chose the starting point. I mean, yeah. You can look at it like that, I think.
Yeah. That you're really just cutting away.
Right.
Yeah. I could see that. I feel like I haven't seen it pop up in comedy as far as jokes being a problem. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, because you can't express.
Yeah, it's just not, like I said,
like a human can.
Even if you used it for comedy, you would still have to put a lot of work into it after the fact.
Yeah.
You can't just output.
I've seen a few jokes that came off of it that are pretty funny. But I think it's going to be like, man, I really enjoy churning butter. I'm going to churn my own butter. Like, that's what it's going to be. It's like, I really like writing jokes. I'm going to write my own jokes.
I don't know, but I think that a lot of it, too, with a lot of this technology, I mean, even going to, like, NFT kind of stuff, not that I want to get into that, but, like, there's a use for it.
Yeah.
The thing that people are using it for, a lot of people, in both cases, are not the best, or not even ethical or whatever. It's like we have to figure out the best way to use these tools. So
and not let them kill us. Well, I think any AI that takes the work off of you, like
that's kind of the best case.
The fix is to. Like, the goal should be not to work anymore.
Yeah.
Like, if they're replacing truckers with AI trucks...
then people don't have to do that job anymore, and they don't have... it's like you have less people neglecting their family for months at a time because they're on the road. You have less people,
Bad
getting
vertebraes.
hurt. Yeah, getting hurt because they're, not sleeping, or, getting into wrecks and things like that. I mean...
Yeah.
because it's hard on.
You've ever driven
body.
at night from state to state and watched truckers just swerve on the road?
Yeah.
I mean, not all of them, right? But there's it's been every time I've done it.
Right.
It's been
every time you've had to drive an 18-wheeler, man.
Yeah. Immediately off the road. That's just me being a bad driver. I got one more. I got a few things that I just kind of want to bring up that I think would be great resources for writing as well as for comedians. One of them is, for the morning pages, and Dave's got the book over there. It's called The Artist's Way.
It's written by Julia Cameron.
It's really great. It talks about the morning pages. It talks about not editing yourself.
The reason I started writing the morning pages before I ever bought this or read it, a year before, pretty much. And the reason I haven't even finished this book. I've only gotten into the first third of it, but
that's enough.
But the reason I really got it, it's a good tool for just creating, finding creativity within yourself. I mean, it's got a lot. I think it's got a lot of mental health things where you're kind of diving into your psyche a lot in the lessons and the kind of the exercises in here have a lot to do with diving into your kind of past and things like that, which is good. So I recommend it for that. But also, it's a good tool for anyone that's doing anything creative, because the reason I got into it was I wanted to understand more about how to use the morning pages better, and it has tools like that and other tools also. Yeah.
But every book I've read about writing refers back to Artist's Way and to morning pages. I mean, a lot of comedy books I've read. So, top comedy books that I think every comedian should read is going to be The Comedy Bible. It's going to be, what's the one by Steven Rosenfeld? Greg Dean's book, Step by Step Comedy. And there's one that's my favorite. And this one talks about kind of the negative thoughts that you put on yourself. It's called The Comic Toolbox. And that one really kind of walks you through doing your writing and not being so hard on yourself, and while doing your craft and staying in practice. And that one's really good. And then Hot Breath. So during the pandemic, that's whenever I did a lot of my research on being a comedian. And Hot Breath, during the pandemic, they were able to interview all these comedians because they didn't have anything to do. So really well-known comedians like Andrew Schultz, like I said, Chad Daniels, Mark Norman, Dan Soder, and more. Kyle Kinane's one of my favorite ones. But they go in here and talk about their writing process, how comedy works, how they got to where they are. And Hot Breath, I can't say more about that podcast. So that one I listened to.
That's a podcast. I was thinking it was a book. I was like,
no. This is a podcast. Hot Breath is a podcast. Look them up. I saved a whole bunch of them. Yeah. And I just re-listened to them over and over again. That's
why I think that these podcasts, that's kind of what I wanted to see for this show is people, hopefully it gets to the point where people are saving specific episodes that they want to refer back to, because I just think it's such a powerful tool to have something like that, and listening to people talk about a process or whatever it is that you're trying to do, and for inspiration, things like that. Because I definitely do that with other podcasts too, where I just have certain episodes saved that it's I'm going to want to listen to this again.
Yeah. And then one thing I do for myself that makes it easier on my writing, not every day I can get to it, but I try to at least write something. I try not to set up high expectations for myself for it, because I really enjoy it. I don't want to put pressure on it. So if I walk up and every day I'll start with 3 great things that I'm grateful for before I start writing. If I just get those 3 things down, if I just write my name,
yeah, it's I'm grateful to wake up today.
I'm grateful to wake up today, and then boom, that counts. If that's all I got time for, I got to run out the door, I was late that morning, then I'll just do that. Because this is something that James Clear says in I think it's the Power of Habit or something. But he mentions that 1% better every day If you just do 1%, that's still 365% at the end of the year, and that's a huge.
Yeah,
that's like
massive.
That's a huge amount. So, I try to do at least that, and then you can still consider that writing. I consider rehearsing writing. I consider even performing.
Yeah, because you're
writing.
still writing. I mean, I think that's, but definitely for comics, I'm sure that you're gonna, every time you do a bit, it might change a little bit, because you're writing it in your head, even if you don't physically write it down. Like that.
But yeah, that's writing in groups. That was the other thing. I write with Leo Mendes. He's a comedian here in OKC, and before we used to write at his house with a group of guys, maybe 4 to 5 people, which was really great. Neil Rubenstein, a really good comedian, he would kind of join in and kind of helped out a little bit here and there, which is great. I really like doing that. I would feel a little nervous, oh man, are my ideas good to even help? I was just starting out.
But you have that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So am I even supposed to be here?
Yeah.
These guys are really good.
I just want to be in the room. That's what I thought. I want to see what it looks like.
I think that's probably the most powerful thing, is because you can share ideas and share processes and, learn so much from each other. That's something that I think a lot of people, when we are in that competitive mindset with anything that we do, whatever art form or thing that you do, you get in this competitiveness and you think that, I can't let anybody else know about my processes because they're mine and they're going to be better than me. It's I think that's a terrible way to think, because I think about even going to technology and stuff like that. That's a huge thing with industries, right? Any massive Microsoft and these massive tech companies, Google and stuff like that, and they're so protective of the things that they do. Well, some of them aren't, and they want to share that knowledge because they know if other people have this knowledge, the whole industry is going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to bring everyone up. So some of those kind of, like I said, I realized that years ago and learning about, tech industries and the internet and stuff, the early days of the internet and stuff, and how the internet even works to begin with.
Yeah.
It's they had to share that knowledge with each other to even make the internet possible. So, it's so powerful to share and to talk to each other and learn about each other's processes.
Well, that also goes into that used to be a attitude that was in construction. So I worked electrical construction, new construction. So there's apprentices, then it goes journeyman, then it goes foreman, then it goes superintendent. Guys that were journeymen or superintendents or foremen, they wouldn't let the guys below them know as much because
they're afraid.
They were afraid they were going to get their spot taken. But on the jobs where everybody did share information, the jobs ran smoother.
Yeah.
People were more included, so they felt like they were part of it, so they worked harder. I've only ever seen sharing the information be the best way to go, personally.
Yeah, if you hold something
But it
back.
is a fear. It's based out of fear that you're going to lose. But that's how you delegate. That's how we all get good. What's it called?
Yeah.
Rising tide raises all ships? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah, I'm not. Don't quote me. But it's something like that. But yeah, it's something I saw there, and so in music and in art or anything I've done performance-wise is I try not to judge. I can't judge myself based on someone else. That's somebody else's existence.
Yeah.
I can only do my art. But just having somebody to bounce ideas off of gives you ideas, and then they give you a different angle.
Yeah.
They'll throw something in. It's just, and it's also a cool hang.
Yeah, and you can just make a friend too.
So I would always suggest a writing buddy, no matter what writing you're doing. I miss something I really liked when we were doing songwriting was when our drummer John would come and help, and John was really good at all things musical. So he taught himself drums, and he was really good at it. He could keep time without a metronome accurately, and he was really good at lyrics. He would come up with these really good lyrics. He wrote a few of our songs with me, and it's always nice to have somebody to bounce off of too. So, I would suggest a writing buddy in any way. somebody you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, I like that. I think it's good. I mean, that's why I love music. Me personally, it's like I wouldn't probably do... I don't really like creating art so much by myself in any form, really. I mean, it's always better. But that's why I love music, is because the stuff that we do in a band, you cannot do on your own. I mean, you could, but it would not be the same. You can't get the same product you can, with 5 people, versus even if you did everything by yourself, played every instrument, it would just be that person's experience and not the experience and ideas and inspirations of 3 or 4 other people. So
yeah. Well, 5 people better represents how we are in the world.
Yeah, it's a magical thing for me. So that's why I love music, and doing even this podcast. It's like, it would be not nearly as good if it was just me sitting here. It's like we need to have somebody to bounce stuff off of and get the ideas flowing and conversation and all that. But yeah, so...
All right, so what we think is going on this weekend? We got anything cool going on this coming weekend?
Let's see. So this weekend, Saturday, October 7th, we have my friends at Mycelium Gallery. It will be having another small little... It's called Mycelium Sessions with my buddy Armand with Ex Machina. He's really cool. It's a chill time. I mean, he just sets up the DJ booth. Not DJ, but he's got his lo-fi kind of glitchy, very atmospheric music that, So you can just hang out, look at some art. I mean, it's 3 to 7 this Saturday, October 7th. Stop by. Just even if you pop in, check out what they've got going on, because it's super cool. You can meet a cool musician. Like me, I'll probably be there. But also Armand will be there. He's really cool. And check out the art. Maybe buy some pieces. It's they got some affordable pieces. It's not like this hoity-toity kind of expensive art gallery. I mean, so they've got some big pieces for, but they've got some small stuff that's cool. So check it out. Even stop by for a few minutes. We'd love to see you out there. So that's Saturday, and then we've got I guess there's this thing going on Sunday. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's only the most important thing. So Lively Comedy Showcase. It's a show that I run at Lively Beer Works. It's one of my favorite things to do in the month. I get super excited for it. That's going to be October 8th, and that's going to be doors open at 5, show at 6. Now what we do with our showcases, there's raffles, so you have the opportunity to win a few free things. We usually bring a game, like a little board game or something.
I think that's a cool idea. Yeah. It's just some fun. And I love the raffle stuff in general. Yeah,
and then so we'll do that, and then Lively, they give away beer packs and $25 gift cards, so come out if you want some free stuff. It's $5 to get in. That's a hell of a deal. Yeah. And we have a great lineup. We have Caleb Collins. He does Fairweather Friends open mic. And then we have Marty Johnson. He's a vet here. He's been doing comedy for years. Really good. Anna Rhodes, she's been starting out doing great. Dace Carlson, he's been doing really good too. And then Tyler Barris is going to be there. And then me. And but like I said, the food that we're gonna have is OKC egg rolls, super good. They sell out every time, so hopefully they'll make some more. But the food's delicious. It's a really good time. Come out this Sunday and let's get some laughs. Yeah.
So that's it.
That's about it.
We still have an email address. rhythmandwit@gmail.com. Hit us up. We love to hear from you. We want to talk to the community and be involved, or hit us up on Instagram. We're active on there too, so we'll see it. If you want to just message us there, it might be easier. So yeah, we would definitely love to hear from you all, so hit us up. We're gonna start having guests eventually. I don't know when.
Coordination's been tough.
But even if, I've been enjoying just having our conversation. We got plenty of topics, so we'll have things to talk about regardless every week. So we appreciate you all checking this out, and yeah, so
yeah. Thanks so much for everything. We'll see you on the next one.
all right, peace.